This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the show.
What you just said.
Take care, Polly Wally.
And the silence you hear is Lambeau Field.
And there is your dagger!
Stop it! Stop it!
You like that? Hell yes!
Hi, Mr. Allen. How are you doing today?
How you doing, PA? What's going on? Hey, Paul. How you doing?
9 to noon.
Good stuff. Ooh.
The Vikings.
And welcome to 9 to noon Monday, friends and foes. And the NFL draft is a mere 2.5 weeks from now. There will be luminaries at our U.S. Bank Stadium draft party, and none more prominent than our first guest.
HOF.
It's one of the great defensive linemen in Minnesota Vikings history, and 2025 Pro Football Hall of Famer, the great Jared Allen, kicks off 9 to noon. Jared, it's Paul Allen. How are things with you? Did you and your family have a good weekend?
We did. You know, we're full of volleyball, so always a good weekend.
And
Chasing the kids around.
How's your volleyball playing prowess? I mean, you're an athlete.
Oh, I'm an athlete. I'm a beast at whatever I take on, PA. You know that.
They're actually, you know, in the limited times I've played volleyball, I mean, there actually are some low-key painful moments if you don't get your hands together the right way when you're trying to like hit the bad boy back. You know what I mean? It like stings a little bit.
Absolutely. And then you know, some of those older kids, man, they can hit that ball pretty hard. I don't think I would want to take one in the face, you know.
A spike. A Vikings draft party. Yep, we're looking for a spike with that, not only for the football team, but much more. Now, Jared's first public appearance in Minnesota after being traded here in 2008 was at the Winter Park draft party where he took pictures with Kevin and Pat Williams and Ray Edwards. Think about that. Think about that, man. I mean, your first appearance here, your head had to be spinning underneath that cowboy hat that day, right?
You know what? It was a fun deal. Yeah, I think, you know what's fun about draft day and that party, in that situation in particular was, you know, I think the draft kind of signifies the start of that new season, right? It's the new, it's the potential, the possibilities. And so, coming in and having the entire D-line together at that moment was pretty cool, was pretty special. I had been in and out, a little bit, but from a public appearance standpoint, I think what it does for the fans is it really shows, okay, it's what is the team's commitment level that year, right? Because you got free agency, like I said, I was obviously free agency, then the draft, and it really is kind of that hope and that dreaming of what the season could be. So, and as players, it's that way too. So for me coming over and getting to greet the fans the first time as a D-line, I think it was just kind of the excitement was, hey, this is real now, and we have the ability to do something great with the guys that are standing next to me, and hopefully we're able to do just a little bit of that.
HOF.
How close, Jared? How closely do you follow free agency or the draft or say the league these days?
Not ultra close enough, I think. Enough to stay, not sound like an idiot when I talk to people like you, and have an actual opinion. So, I catch the highlights for the most part. I keep up to date with some of these ridiculous paydays. See who's getting it. Look at stats. From some of the top, rush guys that I like to watch. I do feel bad for some of these guys. I guess it's a double-edged sword. The draft these days with social media the way it is, and basically the NIL deals and how everything is just kind of like self-gratification, advertising, if you will. Everybody promotes themselves, self-promotion, and it can come back and bite you in the butt. You look at Deion's kid, right? I mean, he's getting obliterated. He's getting all the praise and all the obliteration, and never played a snap in the league yet. So, I kind of wish some of that would tone down and let kids let the talent speak for itself and let it be judged once they get on the field. But at the same time, you got these kids out there acting like they've accomplished the world and never stepped foot on the NFL field. The reality is the NFL is so much different than college. So I hope that these future generations can carry that skill set of dominant, quality, high level play, and get out of this whole, self-promotion, doing it for IG type of, mindset.
Well, speaking of NIL, I mean, let's go back 2 decades and change. I mean, if NIL had been in play at Idaho State for the pass rushing long snapper, where are you going to run down that NIL in Pocatello, Idaho?
Hey, you know what? I wouldn't have had to eat Totino's pizzas and Tom Ramen all through college. You know what I mean? I might have been able to afford to shop it somewhere other than the dollar store. I don't think we were going to get hooked up with all the NIL there at Pocatello. We were jealous when I had buddies that were going to bigger schools, and I heard that they had training table that didn't come out of their stipend. So we got $436 a month to live on it. I had to pay rent, buy our food. We didn't have free training table or nothing.
And speaking of eating, or speaking of restaurants, like when I was putting this together for the Covenant Catch-Up with Hall of Famer Jared Allen, one of the great defensive players in the history of the league and certainly Minnesota Vikings football, I'm like, wait, you owned a restaurant in Kansas City like 16 years ago? Who knew?
No, I didn't own it. That was just a name and likeness deal. That was an NIL deal. Hey, look at that. An NIL deal before they were cool.
Yeah.
A guy I knew paid to use my name for a restaurant. Luckily, I have a smart agent. I knew I'd probably getting traded in that aspect, so we had like a trade clause in there that I wasn't liable for anything if I no longer play with the Chiefs.
I know. I mean, it's your poor friend. You get traded, restaurant shuts down. I'm like, damn, man, that was a nice run.
Shuts down. Yeah. So that was unfortunate, but yeah, I owned restaurants in Scottsdale for many years. We did well with them. We actually, the lodge is no longer, but it's a fun business, but it's definitely one of those you got to be on your P's and Q's with as well. But yeah, I don't, the business of football has grown in so many different directions that so these kids these days, I don't know how you go to school and be successful making that kind of money. I would have never made the NFL if you were paying me millions in college. That would have been a complete train wreck.
Wait, and help me with this. Does Steve Hutchinson still have the restaurant in Nashville with the boiled peanuts?
I don't know. I didn't know he had a restaurant in Nashville.
Yeah, it's something Rabbit, like Black Rabbit or something like that. And I think it did pretty well.
Oh, he might. Black Rabbit's a good restaurant. He might be an investor in that thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was, I think even guys like Michael Roos might be
right.
investors in that group. I'm not 100% sure. I know Michael Roos owns like Henrietta, he's an investor like Henrietta Red and stuff like that, but
right.
I don't think they're not doing any of the day-to-day operations for that standpoint. So I'm not, to be honest, I don't go out to eat much PA. I try to grow and harvest all my own food, and we cook at home. So,
well, let me ask you this.
HOF.
If you had to live anywhere in the world except the United States, Jared, where would it be and why?
Oh, that's a tough question because I am a mess. I love Europe, right? So my first choice would probably be Italy.
Ooh.
My wife's Italian, so Italian and Swedish, and the food in Italy is insane. I love Italy. Italy is one of my favorite places on earth. Probably like, if I could have like someplace out in Tuscany, give me a few hectares out there in Tuscany, Italy, that area. That'd be a no-brainer. That in Switzerland. Oh
right.
My gosh. Switzerland might be one of the most beautiful places on earth. That New Zealand. New Zealand's got insanely good food too. But Switzerland, man, we were there about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and one of my favorite places I've ever been. So, yeah, I mean, the EU in general is pretty dope. But Italy, I'd probably say Italy is my number one.
Well, I mean, it's whether it's Rome, Tuscany. Go ahead.
And for the one, I'd want to be in the countryside. So for the one, Europe, I mean, once you're there, it's so easy to get around, right? You can see all sorts of different places. The history is insane. But the quality, so for us, food is a big deal, right? So food quality over there takes a lot of stresses off our life. A lot of things that are illegal in Europe is legal in the United States, from all the chemicals and all that stuff. And if anybody's recently following, RFK and all that movement, you kind of get it. But, for me over there, they're really big on tradition. They still use a lot of the same farming practices they used back in the day. The idea of food is more of a cultural, like, community getting together and celebrating, right? They're not constantly on the move, especially in Italy. It's not like on the move trying to hustle to step on each other for the next dollar. And I'm a fan of capitalism, but, at some point you can't put profits over people. And so there's just a pace. Every time we go over to visit, man, I mean, the food is insane. The quality of food, the mom and pops, the small towns over there are still just that. They're beautiful small villages with, that aren't run down, that aren't, sometimes you go in the United States, you get into small town America, it's just, it's kind of, run down. The rural doesn't necessarily mean beautiful,
right.
I mean? And over there, I mean, we were in France, we were in Luberon villages in France, not too long ago. And I mean, this little village, the church was still active, I think it was from like the 14th century. And no joke, they had a Michelin star restaurant in this village of like 50 people, 100 people.
Wow.
Because obviously tourism is big over there, right?
Yeah.
But everything, it's just so cool to see the history. And you talk about, how you think about how young the United States are. When you get over, here you might see a tombstone or, you might see something maybe from the earliest 1600s, 1700s. But you're lucky if it's the 14s, right?
Right.
Or 1500s. But then you get over to, you get over to Italy or Europe in general, London and stuff like that. I mean, you got buildings that are from like, the year 10, 1000. You got 1200, 1400. I mean, the age of stuff, and you go to Egypt or something like that, you're looking at different complete, like, territorial shifts and regime change from Alexander the Great to when the Muslims take over to the Christians. The whole history of I just love. So that part of the world is fascinating to me. And, so that's my long-winded version of why I would probably choose Italy and Europe, because of just the proximity to so much cool stuff.
Well, when we got together at the Vikings facility, we talked a little bit about the pyramids and, the seemingly impossibility of how they were built back during that time. But, aside from that, there are pyramids where they have tunnels and just cavernous areas they don't let the public go down into. And that freaks me out. I'm like, what's down in there,
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think part of it is because of the exploration of it, right? And it's probably not safe for people to go through there.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, look, I think there's a lot of stuff in this world we don't know about, right? And let's be honest. Let's look at how we handled COVID and certain things when everybody made a run for toilet paper. Remember when toilet paper was out?
Yeah.
I think people have shown a propensity to panic over the years. So there's a lot of stuff we probably don't know about that we probably can handle. I always laughed at the toilet paper thing because I was like, all you got to do is get in the shower, people. Toilet paper's not that
right.
important.
Right. Amen.
Faith and goal.
Now, HOF. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, Jared Allen, HOF. Not only with the draft party coming up a couple of weeks from Thursday, but he's also going to be speaking at the Arise with the Guys event Saturday, May 3rd. And it's at Grace Church in Eden Prairie from 9 to 11 a.m. You can get information and tickets at arisewiththeguys.com. Fellow Hall of Famer Tony Dungy, who's there yearly, he's going to be interviewing you at Arise with the Guys. I know you know Tony pretty well. What do you think he's going to hit you with, Jared Allen?
Oh, I don't know, but you know what? Knowing Tony, being and what the event is, we'll probably talk a lot about faith journey. For me, I hope we get to talk about the implementation of faith in your daily life. Right? Yeah. I think so many people are afraid to walk with Christ or afraid to be bold in their faith because of how does that apply to your daily life, right? Does that? I think so many people think they have to be preachy,
right, to
be a Christian, right?
Yep.
Or they don't want to be judged by the secular world, so they don't necessarily. So they're trying to be a chameleon, right? And I try to tell people all the time, you know what? If your vertical relationship, your relationship between yourself and Christ is good, you really don't care what other people think, right? And I was that way. I would be like, man, I'd hate to be out. I didn't want to be bold for Christ because if I'm out drinking beer, someone's going to say, "Oh, he's not a real critic." But at the end of the day, when you're true in your word and you're true and you know what you're walking with Christ hand in hand, all those worries go away. So hopefully we get to touch on that kind of stuff. Hopefully we get to touch on just implementation of faith into your daily life and what that looks like and that it's different for everybody. And just the most important thing in life, man, is just that communication with God and so. We don't need to, I guess, divulge go into it now, but that's kind of what I'm hoping we talk about, and then I'm sure we'll hit on some football stuff and all that fun stuff. But for me, that's if I get my request, that would be what we could talk about.
The request has been submitted. Amen, brother. And the event is being streamed to a church or a chapel in Pocatello, Idaho. Now, as we mentioned earlier, that's where you played in college and where I was born. And we're going to be bringing the gospel right into the land of secret handshakes. That's very powerful. Don't you think that's powerful?
I do. I think we mentioned COVID earlier. I told somebody the other day, I think that was one of the greatest things about COVID when you had every church was live streaming their services, because the reality is one of the hardest things for a non-believer or someone who's thinking about faith in general, no matter what denomination, is to walk into a church with perceived devout Christians, right? How is that going to look? Because that's awkward. It's uncomfortable. You might get asked, you don't really know what's going on. So I think the ability to meet people where they are at is massive. And I think the fact that there's a lot of churches still streaming and using technology to meet people where they're at and meet people where they're most comfortable, to plant those seeds is such a cool deal. That's awesome.
Now, the Arise with the Guys, arisewiththeguys.com, to close here, it's an event to prepare men to live an uncommon life. So God for sure has put you on an uncommon journey. How have you generally handled, Jared, living a public life around the clock?
Oh, sometimes handle it really well, sometimes not so well.
Amen.
I think as I got older, and now that I'm a has-been, I handle it much better. Like anything in life, man, experience, they say iron sharpens iron. I know it's cliche, but it is, right? Experience is what, teaches you lessons, right? Your failures are only failures if you don't learn from them. And so I don't think I handled public life very well as a young kid, as a young man. And I had to learn some hard lessons. I had to learn some hard truths, and I had to, do some soul searching about, who do you want to be? What do you want to be? And actually I go back to say, when you start worrying about what everybody's outside expectations are for you, and you forget what your core value system is, that's when you get off track. And so as I grew, as I matured, as I studied my word more, as my relationships got deeper, not just with Christ, but with, I met my wife, once my life got in balance, good things started happening. And, so now as I'm older, I obviously know how to handle it. I've been in almost every situation you could possibly think of. So I'm able to, shield my family from certain things, shield myself from certain things. And those, those pitfalls of what to avoid, where to go, what to do, or how to handle, a certain situation. If someone's being an idiot, you can't just slap them in the face. You know what I mean? You gotta maneuver. So, as I get older, you handle it a lot better. So, I think you realize too, everybody's given a different platform in some way or the other, but, through life, you're constantly learning. So that's kind of my, the way I take it. I try to take that same approach as the father, try to take that same approach to the husband. If you're constantly learning, if you're constantly trying to be a better version of what you were the year before, the day before, the month before, you're not going to go wrong.
Yeah, that was beautiful. It's me, Jared Allen, Tony Dungy, Tanner Morgan, and more. Saturday, May 3rd. It's a Rise with the Guys. There's plenty of football talk and memory shared. So bring a group of guys, and you can get the tickets at arisewiththeguys.com, arisewiththeguys.com. Jared, as usual, that was A+. Appreciate you, my brother, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks, all right?
Much appreciated. I got to give a quick shout out to D. Rye, a fellow Hall of Fame. He's getting the Hall of Fame Award of Excellence this year. Dennis Ryan, another Viking, getting honored by the Hall of Fame, so we got to celebrate that as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Jared.
All right, brother. Yep, have a good one.
See you, bud. That's Jared Allen, one of the great defensive players in the history of the NFL and Minnesota Vikings football. He's also
HOF
2025. Come say hello to yours truly, Jared Allen, Tony Dungy, Tanner Morgan, and more. Saturday, May 3rd, Grace Church, Eden Prairie. arisewiththeguys.com. Thank you, TimberTech. Thank you, TimberTech.com. What's on deck 9 to noon includes the 9 to noon weekend wrap, which is next on FM 100.3 KFAN.
When you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself, talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
The Fan.
It's post time for the weekend wrap, courtesy of 9 to noon. Let's begin here. You're wild. Wow.
Zuccarello at center point. Peels at the Boldy. Outside the left circle. Back to Zuccarello. Once more Boldy. He's got a lane left circle. Walks in. Back to Zuccarello. Hurried shot. They score! Marco Rossi at the back post. Wins it in overtime. And the Wild beat the Stars in St. Paul 3 to the final.
Go ahead, Joe.
Fox.
Hey, how about them Wild?
We're coming.
Upset alert. The Wild beat the Dallas Stars. That nemesis hadn't lost the second half of a back-to-back since playing Ottawa in mid-January. Hear me when I tell you that. The nemesis, the adversary, the interlopers had not lost the second half of a back-to-back, and it was on a back-to-back, having lost to the Penguins on Saturday, since something called Ottawa in mid-January. Our Wild had lost 4 in a row. And looked especially lethargic Friday on the island. Boldy, Moose, and Rossi scored for Minnesota, which means 1 in a row. 4 1 in a row, 4 Heinz-O. 1 in a row, 4 Heinz-O. Crowd wasn't booing, it was moosing. The Wild enter the week this week with 4 to play and are 2 behind St. Louis, which never loses, for the 7 and 6 clear of Calgary, which has a couple of games in hand on Minnesota for the West final playoff spot. Your Minnesota Wild hosts San Jose Wednesday. Box in the Box is going to be on the scene Wednesday. Tria, St. Paul, go crazy. After that, it's at Calgary for what will be a chance to potentially fan the flames and end Calgary's season. Next, the weekend wrap takes us to the fighting city of Philadelphia, where we were all hailing the Howl.
Here we go. Now Edwards will trigger in. 6 on the shot clock. Comes into Rudy, right back to Ant, right wing. He's doubled. Ant still with it. Holds, takes a dribble, launches the shot at the buzzer and hits it. A right side 3 from Anthony Edwards. It's going to win the game. 114-109. Under duress. He's done it again. His 6th 3 of the night. He's up to 37 points. And the Timberwolves lead 114-109.
To some, it was an Ant marching. To others, game winner. So they held the coveted 6 seed, despite jacking around with a bunch of 6er no-names, not making Dr. J proud, not making Caldwell Jones proud, and not making Bobby Jones proud. Next for the Timberwolves, it's at Milwaukee tomorrow, hoping to not get swept by the Bucks, who beat the Howl by a deuce at Target Center, and did so sans Giannis and Dame Lillard. Apple Valley High School's Gary Trent Jr. caught fire late and scored 21, playing the role of an interloping foil. Still all jammed up with Golden State, Minnesota, the Clippers, the Grizz. Houston beat GSW last night. Warriors down. Curry bad game. And that all matters because it's a squabble for the less than coveted play-in piece, and the Wolves have 4 to play.
Did you see that the 4-way tie knocked the Wolves into the freaking 7 spot again?
Come on!
We need to get out of this thing. The Clippers vaulting up the standings. 5 in a row for Fincho, though.
Come on! Who do you like tonight? The team that dramatically disposed of Duke?
Everybody runs down the floor. James, long pass down the floor. Cryer tips it. Loose. Knipple has it. Throws to Proctor. Heaves up a 3. No good. Houston from behind. 14 down to the national championship game. game. And for the first time since 1984, Houston will play for a men's basketball national championship.
Phi Slamma Jamma. Akeem Olajuwon, Larry Michaud, Clyde Drexler and the gang. Knipple, you say?
Can you repeat the part of this stuff where you said all about things?
So, who do you like? The team that dramatically disposed of Duke or the tepid favorites who dispatched of our guy Janai Broom and Auburn?
Clayton saves the rebound, saves it to Houck. He'll dribble it out. And for the fourth time in school history, and the first since 2007, it's a Florida final. The Gators win it 79-73. They'll play in the national championship game on Monday night.
Take your pick. Who do you like?
Why don't you give me half the money you were going to bet? Then we'll go out back. I'll kick you in the nuts, and we'll call it a day.
Now to chat that and much more. Coming up at about 11 o'clock. We can't wait to hear from this guy.
Asama waiting, bounces to Fox right of the arc outside the stripe, wants to drive, does through a double team. Oh, and a reverse dunk. He threw it down over his head, back to the basket, and Gophers leading by 5. His third dunk of the day.
Parker Fox, 11 o'clock in studio, 9 to noon. A couple of talented one seeds meet a few minutes before 8 o'clock tonight at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. And speaking of Texas, seems against Houston, our Twins indeed had a problem.
2-2. And that is strike 3 called, froze him with a slider, and that is the ball game. How about the Houston Astros? Down 7-1. They come back to win in Minnesota 9-7 and 10.
Hey Vox, how about them?
How about those Astros?
We blew a 7-1 lead up in the mug. Twins led 7-1 yesterday. So we smacked them Saturday. Got meatloaf Sunday. Meaning 2 out of 3 indeed went bad. Now, the Stros, top 3 of Altuve, Paredes, and Alvarez, went 8 for 16 with 7 RBI and a home run.
Oh, my gosh.
And that was all yesterday. I mean, come on. That's a lot. As the late Bob Casey would say, now quit this! The boys begin a 4-game series tonight at Kansas City. And also Hopkins High School's Paige Beckers led the Lady Huskies to a basketball national crown. And the Grade 8 passed the Grade 1 for the most goals in NHL lore. And Mondays with McTockett handles that around 10 o'clock. That is your 9 to noon weekend wrap. I'm Paul Allen, and Vikes Bites are next.
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
Fan.
Vikes Bites.
Man producer on the scene.
You're listening to my dad and Uncle Paul on the Fan.
He is I and I is we. Slim with tilted brims. Welcome back, Norge.
Thank you. Vikes Bites. Oh, I got to play more of those kid sounders. 9 to do. Vikes Bites is presented by, however, a local company, Clearwater, Minnesota. Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. And, you know, it's interesting. You heard the HOF pass rusher in the first segment of the show. He was talking about food practices and the quality of food. That's accurate. Some things that are not allowed in Europe are things that maybe we eat every day, and there are reasons for that. Part of the mission behind Thousand Hills, regenerative agriculture and healthy food, nutrient-dense beef, that's part of their mission, is providing the healthiest, most nutrient-dense food to your tables, and they're incredibly good at it. You can get them at Coburn's, Co-ops, Kowalski's. They're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics as well, so healthy food, good food, that's all about Thousand Hills right there. My first thing for you, Mike Sando of The Athletic, PA. I want to get into a couple of draft bits here. I found some interesting things on FanDuel as well. But Mike Sando wrote this article. It's kind of 'tis the season of anonymous jabs, it feels like, when it comes to executives and it comes to free time. And, hey, what'd you think of XYZ's team operating during free agency, et cetera? So Mike Sando article, The Athletic. This was a couple of anonymous executives based on the Vikings offseason thus far, and specifically how Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has navigated things. Here's this first one. It's like the 2015 Colts all over again. They're signing older guys who have been hurt, who are on third or fourth contracts. This is an anonymous executive. Anonymous, tells Mike Sando. You cannot build a team with old players, especially old players who have been cut because they were hurt. The idea, and then here's one more. This is kind of interesting. There is no more fascinating team than Minnesota. Again, anonymous. They have 13 and 14 win seasons over the past 3 years, but no playoff win to show for it, and only one division title. The head coach seems like a difference maker, a multiplier. If Kwesi does not get a new deal, would they just promote Grigson? It's fascinating. So Grigson, of course, VP of Personnel and Development here with the Vikings. Former Colts GM, by the way. I believe he was GM at the time. You heard that mentioning of the 2015 Colts. But all of that put together, 'tis the season of anonymous jabs, PA. You put any stock in those sorts of things? Any thoughts in terms of what was stated? And again, it's anonymous, so we don't really know who's saying it. But Mike Sando does good work with these sorts of things. So I trust Sando's efforting and reporting in that regard. It's just interesting this time of year when you see some of these shots being taken.
It sounds like over the last few years, maybe for Vikings road games at like between 10 and 11:30 in the evening, sounds like somebody hasn't been readily invited into the chat.
Take care, Polly Wally.
But that's okay. I would imagine. In fact, I know off this story. I'm not sure if it was Kwesi Adofo-Mensah who called the meeting. Somebody called a meeting, and they read the story aloud. And the response by many was,
"Get it in here! I got one thing to say. This is when the big dogs come out. Okay, can't roll the big dogs. Stay on the board."
I guess we'll just let the metaphorical chips fall on the proverbial table and see what happens.
Vikes Bites!
It's Vikes Bites and it's beef.
Thank you, Thousand Hills. I was indeed on FanDuel Sportsbook. I was looking at some other things, NBA specifically, but I jumped into the NFL draft. And it has become, apparently, just conventional wisdom. Cameron Ward, quarterback Florida, will go with the number 1 overall pick. Heavy favorite. He's minus 200 to 1. Minus 20,000.
Minus 20,000.
Yes, correct.
Right. Yeah, we've had a chain of events lately that have probably taken that from like minus 900 up to minus 20,000.
Correct. So what my question is to you, is it over for you? Because I look at this and I think,
that mean?
Well, I just mean, is it over in regard to that's it?
Oh.
That as I'm preparing for the draft, okay, I got to prepare. Let me see here. I got 3 or 4 completely obscure topics I know Charch is going to want to get into. Pete here. I'm going to throw to Lieber on this bit. We got XYZ guest at the very last second that we won't be prepared for, but we'll handle beautifully.
HOF rolling into the program. Jared Allen at the draft party.
Correct. So you have all of that you're preparing for. At this stage, you're just anticipating. Bell opens. You get Goodell getting booed at Lambeau, and then first pick, it's obviously Cam Ward, because I'm still seeing Shador right there at 65 to 1. And I'm thinking, man, I could just throw $10 on that, caution to the wind, and I catch 65 to 1 if the obvious doesn't happen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to U.S. Bank Stadium. It's the 2025 Miller Lite Minnesota Vikings draft party.
KFAN is my favorite station.
Yeah, we like KFAN too. That's how it's going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a private workout recently that mutually was agreed upon between the Titans and Shador Sanders representation, and probably Shador Sanders' dad. So the Tennessee Titans, they're basically like, we have hundreds of hours of game film on Shador. The Colorado Buffaloes had a pro day last week. It was televised, and the Titans attended that, and they're like, we good. We don't need the private workout, so we're good. We can read between the lines there that I just think that bumps old Cam Ward just another notch towards number 1. It's a minus 20,000. All right, 20,000. You got to put up $20,000 to win $100. And your prediction is young Cameron will go first. I mean, you're going to be right, but $20K to win 100? Oh, my.
Got any cash to launder? Got a duffel bag? Meet you on the border. Vikes Bites, thank you, Thousand Hills. When you speak of the greatest class here, greatest wide receiver draft in 2020, the greatest tight end draft a year or two ago, things like that.
Yeah.
Kind of the idea is, well, you got to get one of those. And as we're going into the 2025 draft, I haven't seen this particular position group is just overflowing with Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
But I still continue. Even now, we're just 2.5 weeks from the draft itself. I still hear a ton of buzz about the defensive front in particular being by far the deepest and longest part of the draft.
Running backs, too.
Running backs and corners in particular. So a lot of conversation specifically with the Vikings in recent times about a guard at 24. And I love me some Gray Zabel or Booker. But if the deepest crop is indeed the defensive front, specifically defensive tackle, does that give you pause? Corners in the mix, and it's top heavy it's not top heavy with HOF talent, but you can certainly walk away with one of these guys that can start day one. Do you start getting yourself into that mix of taking peeks at 3 techniques? Love the idea of bolstering with the North Dakota State kid, Alabama kid, good guard here and there, tackle guard flexibility. Let's get a guy there that can make plays early.
Yeah.
But man, if this truly is a draft where 5 or 6 defensive tackles could go on Thursday and they all have that kind of talent, maybe I just want to get one of those to get one of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We love the Vikings!
As do we. Now, it's interesting the way you laid that out because, I mean, there are a lot of layers here, and many that will be shared up to the draft. One of them included Friday when you were away, and Paul Charchian made his return. So we were talking about the 3 techniques. We were talking about defensive linemen.
How was the hair, by the way?
And it looked great.
Yes, it did.
It looked great. Electricity does not need to be reinvented. Looked fantastic, spry, bushy-tailed, all that. 3-2. Now,
talking about three techniques.
With defensive linemen, specifically the three techniques, the defensive tackles who rush the quarterback, you know the respect and or reverence I have, and I believe you do too. I just get a chance to listen to him more than you. Pat Kerwin, former general manager for the New York Jets. And
so good.
Yeah, he's just, my man is just dialed into the nuance of the National Football League drafts, and like Pete Carroll's his best friend. He knows everybody around the league. What I shared with Charch is I was listening to Kerwin recently, and he laid it out like this. He said, because he does the show from Florida, so I just envision some type of porch or a patio overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, and he's just all chill with a soft breeze and the palm trees and stuff like that. And he said that he spent 3 or 4 hours watching defensive tackle film because he's just heard so much for so long now. It's kind of like when the Rodgers thing got all hot and everything, and then finally you texted me, and I'm like, all right, this has to end.
Yeah, we got to figure this out.
I got mad producer now, apoplectic over the talker, and that's my guy. So then that Vox in the Box, we did our very best to share our side, and Kerwin kind of did that with the defensive tackles, and here's how he did it. He said, when you start the conversation, do you see, can you prognosticate, and I bring this up because you mentioned HOF. You mentioned gold jackets.
HOF.
Do you believe there are any Hall of Famers or potential Hall of Famers within this mix?
Right.
And he said no. He said, I've watched them all, and I've watched a lot of the plays of all of them, and no, I don't see any gold jackets. That's my personal take. Secondly, John Randall, gold jacket. All right. So now Aaron Donald, gold jacket. Yes.
Yeah.
Chris Jones, probably gold jacket.
Yeah.
But Donald just retired. So now he's playing the waiting game, and Chris Jones still plays. He said, when I looked at a good 25 to 32 of them, did I see any Aaron Donalds or Chris Jones? He said, no, didn't see any of them either.
Wow.
So then he basically laid it out like this. It's the football is a speed game. Okay, so speed. The 40 time, the 3-cone shuttle. It's just, their defensive tackles running 4.5. Well, that's great. Is paraphrasing the way he laid it out. And he said this is not diminishing, anybody saying that they can't fit in right away. But he's saying if you are building your covenant around one of these ballyhoo defensive tackles, you just better be careful if you take them in the first round. Because if you take them in the first round, there are certain expectations, and everybody's now heard how deep the class is. And PK was like, I don't see any HOFs. Okay, well, that's not the first time. It's like when you looked at the 2020 wide receiver draft, I don't know, maybe somebody was like, yeah, Jefferson will go to the Hall of Fame. Yeah, sure. Judy will go to the Hall of Fame, or Ayuk, or whomever. I just didn't hear it.
Well, yeah, people. Anytime you hear that now, and Kerwin's been so long established that he can get loud in that regard. Can you picture just like the burnt leather tan that he has right now, beachside? Unfreaking believable.
With the salt and pepper hair and the mustache.
Tommy Bahama, shirts open.
Yeah, it's buttoned down mid sternum. And he's looking at the Oregon 3 technique, and he's now all of a sudden in a bad mood.
You think he's gold necklace guy?
So, yes. So his favorite movie is Scarface. So Pat basically is like, there's talent. Yeah, there are a lot of good ones, but let's not go overboard with this individual position. This individual draft, he's not a big fan of the draft, period.
Wow.
With just things that he's heard and things that people are forcing upon him, there will be good players all over the draft. The HOF comparison's high, but then you get to Aaron Donald wasn't a first-round pick. Chris Jones wasn't a first-round pick. That's the point he was making, that these guys weren't first-round picks. So therefore, if you invest the way you're going to invest in these 3 techniques in the first round, you just better be careful, and you better have the right components around them, because they're going to need help. So that gets me back off the way you laid it out to I'm still all offensive line. I'm still all OL all the time around 24. You were here on Monday because you set up Polasek, the coach of NDSU, and I shared with Charge on Friday. The I've been thinking a lot about it, because he just seems like a straight shooter. Now, he's not going to come on here and say, I don't think Gray Zabel is worthy of a first-round pick.
Right.
Even if he doesn't, he's not going to say it. But it resonated with me, the comparison he made to Carson Wentz, because Tim Polasek, coach of the Bison, was Wentz's coordinator a decade and change ago, when Carson, at this time, or maybe let's say combine-ish time, widely considered first round, early second round, somewhere in the 20s, got some project because of the FCS, all that. Well, then he got steamy, like Anthony Richardson a couple of years ago. And he went third. Where'd Wentz go, second or third?
I think it was second.
Yeah. So he said, I see the same thing with Gray Zabel, not all the way into the top 10. I didn't feel that. But like around 24, feels like high teens, early 20s, 16, 17, 18 for Gray Zabel, if you want him. But I'm still offensive line.
Ooh, I dig that. That's Vikes Bites, brought to you by Thousand Hills. Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. Shop online, a box of meat will show up at your doorstep. It's cool.
Prediction, the tight ends in this draft will make more noise in the first 5 years of their careers than any other position in this draft. The tight ends. So the draft's 2 weeks from Thursday, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. Just like our Wild did yesterday, super lethargic on the island. Took a couple of L's against the Devils. A week and change ago, just looked bad against the Devils at XL Energy Center. And lo and behold, a team they rarely beat, they beat. They beat the Dallas Stars, and they need the victory like they needed to breathe. To talk about that and much more, Pat Micheletti, beloved Mick Tockett, in the 651 Carpets Plus studios, around the corner, 9 to noon, KFAN.
You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.